Hello everybody, welcome to day, I believe, 33 of my Casting Everyday Challenge. Now, I'm going to go back to Hearthstone. I'm going to finish up the ATCL2 day 1, finally. I finally got around to it, and it's going to be Powder versus Chinoize in this best of 5 conquest mode. We'll have to see what kind of cards they're playing and decks and all that. It will show in the video soon enough. Let me see if I can skip ahead to that. It's right here. So as you can see on here, Chinoize versus Powder. Chinoize bringing back that Druid, Shaman, and Warlock, and Powder going to be bringing this Shaman, Warlock, and Warrior. So both sides actually did 4 different bans. The Druid and Rogue banned from Powder, and the Hunter actually going to be banned away from Chinoize with that Warrior. So Powder actually able to bring in the Warrior is really good because, in my opinion, Warrior is one of the best decks right now. And seeing Hunter banned away from Chinoize, my best guess is Powder just doesn't want to deal with that. I believe it's going to be a Beast buff Hunter deck, so he just doesn't want to play with it. So he goes ahead and bans it. He has a lot of what's it called? He thinks he could beat the Shaman deck. He has a lot of faith in his own decks to beat the Shaman, which in my opinion is, again, one of the best decks in the game right now. But both players are going to be able to play it. So without further ado, we're going to get right into it. And we'll have to see of which side is going to win. I will unblock the bottom two because I just didn't want to spoil any spoilers that would have been down there, such as how long this is going to last for. So recommend not looking at the time so you don't get spoiled. If, like, let's just say, oh, it's 2-1, but there's only 2 minutes left. Obviously, the person who ever wins. So I wanted to try to get as less amount of spoilers as I can. And keep in mind, I'm doing this because I'm actually going to be casting a Strivewire. No, I think it's Strivewire, I was right. Tournament this coming Monday on my channel. So if it's something you want to see or you want to compete in, make sure to check my Twitch down below and go to that, follow, because I'll be going live around 7 or 8 o'clock on Monday for the Strivewire tournament, and it is one that you get Hearthstone Championship points for. So it's actually a pretty big game coming up. And keep in mind that I'll be casting the semifinals and the final. I'm not sure if I'll do both semifinals game, but I'll at least be doing one of them. So we'll have some high-tier Hearthstone coming out of that. So we should be underway with this game extremely shortly. And there we go. So it looks like it's going to be a Shaman versus Warrior matchup. Powder is going to be the one onto that Shaman with Chinoize. No, I think Powder will be on the Warrior. Powder will be on the Warrior while Chinoize is actually playing the Shaman. So it just switched up there. So we'll have to see of how Powder's going to play. Now, with 2 Frothing Berserkers in his hand, not the greatest in my opinion, so he's going to dump them right away. You want to be able to play the Pirates. The Buccaneer is going to be great in order to get your patches as soon as possible, as well as the deckhand. If you would have Nizot's first mate would also be great. But I think he's definitely going to play down the small-type Buccaneer. Now, his choice right here is if he wants to coin out the deckhand as well. The only thing he has to worry about is Maelstrom Portal, which we do see on the side of Chinoize already. So as we see, he's just going to go face and not worry about that. So Chinoize here has a couple options. He could Earth Shock the Buccaneer just to get that off the board, not take that 3 damage that's going to fall, because he realizes that you'll probably have the Fire War Axe coming right afterwards. So he gets a Taunt Totem, one of the best totems right now, because it'll at least protect himself from 3 damage. And one thing against this warrior, you want to try to mitigate as much damage as you can early, because they do run out of steam extremely fast. So if you're able to get these taunts out, if you're able to get a lot of healing in, you could just survive long enough to be able to beat this warrior. And with that pickup of the Taunt Totem, it really helped him out here. So he now has an option to clear the board if he wants to, but he's just going to play it slow. He's actually wanting to keep as many cards as he wants right now. He still has that Lightning Bolt to clear off the small-time Buccaneer, just leaving up patches right now, which is not the end of the world because that's only 1 damage each turn. So we're going to see, again, those Frothing Berserkers coming in the hand of Powder here. And he might want to just start buffing that. Getting a 3-mana 4/4 that can continually buff itself is always great. And Chinoize right now has a couple of decisions of how he wants to deal with this. He could just go ahead and use both of his Earth Shocks to get rid of it. It might not be the best usage of that spell. It looks like this casters really wanted to see the Totem Golem getting the Stoneclaw Totem out. But we do see while this is going on that Lava Shock is going to be used. He is going to double Lava Shock. He just doesn't want that Frothing Berserker out as long as as short as possible. He just wants to get rid of it. So he just gets rid of it right away. Sadly, another one is going to come up that he now has to deal with, and with a small-time Buccaneer as well. He's just going to hold on to his Fiery War Axe because he can't really replace it right now, so there's no point of using it. And he wants to keep that Buccaneer to have that buff on him. Sadly for him, the lightning strike is going to go off, so we'll see if Chinoize wins the 50-50, and it will get it. He gets the -4. He actually won that 50-50 shot, so Powder now going to have to he's going to be on the little bit of a back foot now, trying to clear off what he can. So he realizes that he can't go against this Blood Mage Thanos, and he has to put as much damage as he can face. And that's one thing about a Pirate Warrior, is you don't want to armor up at all in the game, because it really just means that you don't have cards to use to go ahead and actually be aggressive. You are on the back front having to be defensive a little bit, and that's just one thing that he never wants to do. And we do see with that healing in the side of Chinoize, it's going to help him stay alive in this matchup, and the game is just going to go in his favor, even with that a 6 Swamp Ooze. So if we see a big weapon coming out of the side of Powder, it's just going to be removed right away. So great cards coming out of Chinoize. He's played this perfectly so far, playing had he had to get rid of it. So yeah, he does use a Jinyu Water Speaker, gives himself some healing. The Overload right now is not going to really matter too much, because he'll still be able to play Wide Eyes. And this is just showing how desperate Powder is right now. Already forced to use Leroy Jenkins just to put some damage down. And his opponent, after 6 turns, is only at 15 health, which usually would be like, oh, he's being fairly aggressive, but not really against, or not as a Pirate Warrior, because you just want to be a lot more aggressive than that. And he's going to be able to clear really well with this Maelstrom Portal. Actually going to use his Blood Mage for the card draw, and I don't blame him, because he has 2 mana to use right now, and there's no point of not doing that. So with that, gets that card draw, and because of that Blood Imp right there, he's actually going to be able to buff up his Water Speaker a little bit more. So we do see Powder does get that Arcanite Reaper, but we see the healing, we see the Exotic Swamp Ooze out of the side of Chinoize, and that just means that he's going to be able to stay alive, get rid of now 5 damage on the side of Powder. And with that thing from below as well, he could actually just dump all this right now, get a big taunt out, get some healing down, get rid of your opponent's weapon. That was just a perfect turn for Chinoize, and Powder just can't do anything about it. You can just see how frustrated he is right now because of all that. He at least wins the toss-up here, or the, what's it called, the joust. There we go. He wins the joust, so it's only 7 and not 14 healing, so he has some shot in this game. But it's just looking very grim for him right now. He needs something really big right here to deal with the board. And with that Bloodcell Raider, it's not going to be it. And at this point, there's nothing really Powder can do. He could either try to dump minions or surrender just like that. So that is one thing we saw about Pirate Warrior, is if your opponent has the perfect reaction to your deck, you just lose. And Chinoize gets the win with that Shaman card. Now, in my opinion, that Shaman is going to be the best deck against Pirate Warrior, only because Warlock and Druid are fairly slow. You go for the late game. Warlock wants to be able to get his cards, be able to use, and just kind of play the game as a good tempo and good value out of his cards, while Druid wants to get to the late game, so he's able to play out a lot of Jades and just get those big beefy minions that you can't deal with, and the Warrior can actually kill that pretty quickly. So it was the Shaman that won, so it's not the worst case in the world. You still have your Shaman, your Warlock, one that is a mid-range Shaman, and probably a late game Reno Lock, unless they're going Discard Lock. I keep thinking of Reno Lock because it's the deck I usually see, but Discard Lock is still extremely good. And out of the cards that Chinoize is running right now, he's actually running a Doom Guard, which is fairly interesting. I've seen a lot of people cut Doom Guard, as well as a lot of the discard cards from their Reno Lock deck. And looking on the side of Powder, he's going for the discard lock, but he doesn't have a lot of the cheap minions to play. So this is a Warlock versus Warlock, so it is a mirror match, but it's not the same deck. We had the discard lock on the same of Powder, where he just wants to try to own the tempo, just get a lot of cards out really fast, and just make it so Chinoize can't deal with it. Sad for him, he doesn't have a turn 1. There's so many cards you can play turn 1. You have the Taunt Demon that comes up. You have a lot of the Imps, the 3/2 Imp. You have Maltazar's Imp, so you have the Possessed Villager as well. There's just so many 1-mana cards he could have had, but he didn't grab any of them, so he just didn't have a turn 1 turn. He was now forced to turn 2 an Imp Gang boss to coin it in, just to have something on the board to deal with this Dark Peddler. Just not looking good for Powder at this point. And one thing that's out of Chinoize is we're seeing a lot of discard cards from him, so this is a nice little variant of Reno Lock with discard components into it. So I really like this, and unfortunately for him, it was the Mortal Coil that's going to be removed there. Actually, not the worst case scenario there. And the Darkshire Councilman from Powder going to be used as well. But the Kazak is going to be used. So we see that the win condition for Chinoize here isn't going to brand Kazaka's combo to get double of those potions. So he's just going to play it on curve, get probably a 5-mana potion, I'm going to assume. We don't get to see of what he used on that. And it is going to be a 5-mana potion. So hopefully it's going to be, looks like it's a summon a... So it's a 5-man. I think it's a 6/6 demon or a 5. I think it's a 5/5 demon. So it's gonna be a summon a 5/5 demon, and I think that was deal 5 damage. So not a bad potion. It's good to clear off these Darkshire Councilmen. So I really like the pickup of that. But if we see Powder here drop another one down, he's going to be able to clear both of those minions, and that's just great for Chinoize. It's going to get a lot of the win conditions out of Powder. One of the win conditions of this card lock is to just continually buff these councilmen with your cheap cards that you have, as well as it has a lot of good synergy with Possessed Villager and Imp Gang Boss to continually buff those up. But because what we see now, we're just going to see Chinoize easily clear that out and actually keep something alive too. And there you go. There's that 5/5 demon and deal 5 damage. So that Kazaka's potion being monstrous. So good job by Chinoize there, not waiting for the brand Kazaka's combo and getting the perfect, in my opinion at least, the perfect potion from that Kazaka's combo. So let's see if he gets a little bit lucky with this combo of the Knife Juggler and the Dark Pillager, and it is going to be that. And he's getting quite a bit of good damage down, but that is a 5/4 demon. It's going to be really hard to deal with. And Powder right now playing another aggressive deck is just not being aggressive enough, in my opinion. Chinoize just being allowed to play the cards that he wants. He's going to play an Emperor Thorson here, and there's really nothing on the board, at least, that Powder can do. Now, with these Direwolf Alphas in his hand, he will be able to do something. And actually, if he just dumps his hand, in my opinion, throw down another Direwolf, throw down the Librarian to get just a full board right now would actually be pretty good, because that getting that Civil War Golem for free down is just going to be great. Now, interesting move by Powder. Oh, no, because he's going to be able to clear both out, so never mind. Just standard move there by Powder to get both of the minions on the side of Chinoize down. So he is now being able to have at least some sort of presence in this game. And now look at this board. Chinoize has to have some kind of answer for this. And anything short of the Hellfire, he won't be able to do it. Even Demon Wrath won't do it. But that Fellfire Potion going to be the top deck that he needs in order to stay in this game. And he's going to not only clear the board, but he has a 1-mana minion to put down. So that Acidic Swamp Ooze, there's no weapon on the side of Warlock, so he doesn't have to worry, unless there is a Jiraxis later on. But he feels like it's better to get that minion down just to have something on the board. Now, on the side of Powder, he just is going to play everything, so the Silver War Golem won't be used for free, but at least it will be just put on the board. And now we'll have to see from Chinoize if he's able to draw that Hellfire. It was perfect 2 draws at once, but he's not going to get it. He's just going to play Sylvanas down, as well as the Imp Gang Boss. So he's going to say, hey, you have pretty good minions out there, but I have better ones. I'm going to put those down. You have to deal with these. And it's just going to be really, really tough for you. And at this point, Powder is desperately trying to get something. And even this Doomguard, I don't really think is going to be enough to turn this game. He's actually kind of forced to play this, though, just because he needs some sort of board presence. But Powder actually goes face instead. He realizes that at this stage of the game, he just has to hope that if he goes face, he has enough damage to win this game. He needs a couple of good top decks here, but with that Reno Jackson, that's just basically going to spell it. I think that's Chinoize's win right here, and yes, so does Powder, I think, as well. So Chinoize takes in a very early 2-0 lead here, and all he needs is that Druid to win. Now, we do see a lot of fast-paced decks coming out of Powder, so this Warlock that you usually see being late game is actually going to be that discard lock where it's very, very early game, and let's see if this Druid struggles against what we sees. So now Chinoize just needs a win onto that Druid. He has some pretty good wave clear with the swipes, with the Feral Rages, with the Wraths, with all the other spells that this Druid has that he could probably deal with whatever Powder could throw at him. So he just goes ahead, dumps all the high mana cards. He does get a Wild Growth right away, and he wants to get as much ramp as he possibly could in the early game. And he also does pick up the Fandral as well, which will help him with some of the cards, such as if he does get that Jade Idol or Ancient of Ward. Having a 10-10 with Taunt very early in the game can be just devastating against your opponent. And Chinoize with a turn one coin into Wild Growth is going to really help him just start getting a lot of these high value minions out, because on turn 3 he'll be able to have that Jade Spirit out. But this is actually a choice from Chinoize if he wants to actually coin Innervate in that Jade Spirit, because think about it, he could just Wild Growth next turn anyway. And he's actually going to do it. I do like this play because you put out not only a 2-3 but a 1-1 and you start your Jades going. So there's no point not to win this because if he would have coined Wild Growth here, he didn't really have a turn 2 play. He has nothing 3 mana in his hand and he would have had to Hero Power. And now this turn he could still just continue with the ramp. He will have 4 mana on turn 3 and be able to use either Fangel or Swipe. And forcing a Soulfire out from Powder, losing that Darkshire is huge actually. And Powder having to answer this is actually really big for Chinoize. So I really like that plan to coin Innervate out that Jade Spirit. Now, he just has to hope that he gets some kind of good card coming out on turn 4. Now, the Swipe is actually not that bad of a card. It will be able to clear off this Imp Gang boss as well as the 1-1 that is already out. So I don't mind just going ahead to Swipe this turn. Don't allow him to buff up that Imp Gang boss just yet. But he's actually going to go ahead and Fangel instead. He feels like he just needs that board presence instead. Sadly, we do see that the Defender of Argus is going to be here for Powder, so this might be the one mistake that Powder did need to come back into this game, and he's going to easily be able to clear off that Fangel. So with the Fangel getting no value up besides just some damage and 1 minion gone, not really all that worth it. So now Chinoize has a difficult option here, but he's going to go ahead and Azure Drake, hope that sticks. He has 2 swipes in his hand now as well as a Wrath, so he has quite a bit of ways to clear off the board, but Powder realizing that he has full tempo right now, just going to throw down the Doomguard, not really care. He has the Maltazar Imp to get him a lot more cards, so he feels like he could just completely take control of this game with that Doomguard. Now, he did lose 2 pretty good cards from his hand, but he felt like it was worth it for this turn to throw it down. He's going to be able to clear off the Drake in any way he wants, and it seems like he's going to actually throw his Imp Gang boss into it. He wants to keep his Doomguard as healthy as he can, not to get baited into a Swipe or anything else that could deal with it. Now, we do see a Swipe Wrath combo that can deal with it, but it's not going to be a complete board wipe, and we do see that Powder does have some reload in his hand. He's going to be able to throw down more cards. He could actually throw down the Councilman and a taunt to protect it. And Chinoize, realizing this, is just going to have to taunt up and hope that his late game Jades could bring him back into this game. He's not going to just throw down the swipes just yet, and this is really, really helping Powder. He not only does he have the board presence, he now has a way to buff up this Councilman. He just has to get through this big taunt minion, and he gets a Soulfire as well. This is huge for him. He actually feels like the taunt isn't worth it. He's going to go ahead, use that Soulfire to get a new card for himself, and Crystal Weaver going to help out. He's a lot of demons out on the field already, so if he keeps them alive, that they're going to get buffed up. So this is going to be really up to him of how he wants to. Does he want to trade the board completely and just go 5-face? Does he want to actually go ahead and use the Doomguard instead? This is where Powder's decision is. So he's going to go ahead, use the Defender of Argus, and the rest going to go face. He does not care about the 2 damage that's on the board. He feels like it's not going to be enough to bring Chinoize back into this game. So with the swipes in his hand, he's finally going to use them. He's probably going to get rid of the Doomguard here. He sadly just can't get rid of the Councilman as well. He doesn't have the mana to double Doomguard, or to double swipe, sorry, which would have been enough to basically clear the entire board except for the Imp. So sad for him that he wasn't able to do it, but he's at least getting some off the board and clearing that Imp, so there's not enough drawing coming out from Powder, but already having 4 damage on the board and about to go a lot higher, it's going to really help him out. He has the Crystal Weaver, he has the Acidic Swamp Ooze, which he just could use right now. There's no point not using it, in my opinion. Just get that 4-4 now on the board and just make it really, really tough. Actually, yeah, it's going to be a 4-4 because the Crystal Weaver doesn't buff the Councilman. The Councilman is sadly not a demon, so it doesn't help him out. Now, he's going to clear that off to try to protect his Councilman. Now, we do see another swipe on the side of Chinoize, and sadly, his only real turn right here is going to be to swipe into Jade Spirit here, which is still going to leave up. Actually, no, that's not enough. He needs a lot. He needs to clear the entire board just because of what's on there, and he's actually forced to try to find a Fail Rage to get some sort of option, and he doesn't get it actually. So because of that, I feel like that is going to be game. Chinoize is going to lose this one game, and that is going to go over to Powder. He gets a win with his Warlock, so he just needs the Warrior and Shaman left in order to come back in this game. So we see Powder trying for the reverse sweep right now. Got the win with that Warlock, and now all he has left is his Warrior and Shaman. So we're going to see if he's going to be able to take wins on this Druid. And we did say the Warrior, Shaman, and Warlock, or at least his version of the Warlock, are both very aggressive early game decks. So it's really going to be able to beat up on this Druid who didn't really have the answers early on to deal with this Warlock. And it showed in that game of how Powder, if he has the early game advantage, is going to be able to beat this Druid. So he actually did leave up this very late game deck. He did ban, we saw early game decks, so he was able to come back in. And looking at the pickup by Powder, this is actually not what he wants. He doesn't have any Pirates to try to get patches out turn 1, so he really needs to hope for a really good top deck, which he does get in Azot's First Mate, which is one of the best turn 1 cards you get. Not only do you get a small weapon, you also get patches out to help you, and you have a little 1/1 minion that can stick fairly well if your opponent doesn't want to deal with it. So with these 2 minions out, with that Rusty Hook, it's going to allow Powder to at least put something on the board, and that's all he wants to do is just continually apply pressure, make Chinoize answer this consistently, and then just win the game from that. So Chinoize just going to go ahead and hero power, get rid of patches, leaving Azot's First Mate up. And we do see out of Powder, he doesn't really have the greatest of answers. Now, with that upgrade, it actually really does help him. This would allow him to coin out the Dread Corsair if he wants, or you can just wait for next turn to use it. So we do see that the Sir Finley is going to come out. He wants to get a new hero power. And we see probably going to be the Fireball, in my opinion. Dagger Mastery doesn't really help him too much. It's either going to be that or the Life Tap. He does pick the Life Tap instead, though, because the 1 damage is not enough. It's not like the 2 damage steady shot. But getting that extra card draw, because we saw last time the Warrior can actually run out of steam pretty quickly. So that is why he went with that, to try to get more card draw to help him as the game goes on. And we're going to see the Drake come out by Chinoize just to try to have something on the board. And this is where Powder is going to have an interesting decision if he wants to bring out that Acidic Swamp Ooze now and coin in the Corsair, or just throw one down. And if he wants to try to clear out this Drake or leave it up. The only thing is, if he leaves it up, he puts himself in a swipe range. That's going to be a lot of damage going down. 5 damage swipe with 2 across the board is just so much that it could clear most Warrior minions, at least for the Pirate Warrior minions. So he's going to go ahead, throw down the Corsair, and it looks like he is going to coin out the Acidic Swamp Ooze as well. There's no weapons on the side of the Druid, so no surprise there. And just because he doesn't want to be in that swipe range, he is going to clear out the Drake. It is going to cost him 4 damage and 4 to his own face. So we'll have to see if, as this game goes on, if that 4 damage going to Chinoize would have mattered. So now Chinoize with the decision of if he wants to try to swipe to get this Dread Corsair out, or if he wants to go ahead and keep it and try to have it for more damage down the line. He could use his Wrath instead, but he feels like the swipe is the better target or choice right now, because he wants to use that Wrath later on for a cycle. Using it now wouldn't be that good. So a good pickup of that small time Buccaneer. He's actually getting 2 now because of the Life Tap. So that is why you see people grab that Life Tap instead, and he's going to be able to use that Rusty Hook. Just use it to completion, because he will have the Arcanite Reaper coming out next turn. And right now you see Chinoize not having an answer. Even if it's a 1-2 or a 3-2, it doesn't really matter at this point, because even Jade Druids, they don't really run any charge anyway, so there's going to be no point of keeping that up. And it is going to be a Nourish for ramp right here, which I really like, because he wants to try to get that Ancient War out as soon as possible. So, and the Wrath for cycle is what I'm loving. He gets another Wrath off of it, but that could really help. So the Arcanite Reaper coming down, so this is going to be 11 damage going to this side of Chinoize, but he does have that Ancient of War to keep himself healthy now. So he's down at 9 health, but he's going to have a 10 health taunt minion. And we see from Powder, he will have an answer with that Leroy Jenkins. And Chinoize here, what was he hovering there? I forget what was on that end. It wasn't Swipe, it wasn't Wrath, because he used that. It was actually the Jade Behemoth he's going to throw down, and this might be game, actually. He doesn't realize it. Let me see. Let me do the math real quick. Yeah, that is actually going to be game. With the 6 damage from the Buccaneers and the 5+5 from Leroy Jenkins, or just from the Corcoran Elite. So we'll see if Powder, which one he decides to end the game with. He really has his options, and he's going to use the Elite instead. And that is going to be game. So it's going to be 2-2. We're going to go to our final game, and Chinoize struggling with this Druid against these very aggro decks. This is one thing why people kind of put Druid at a low tier 1. It's because it is very late game. It doesn't really help. And we see out of the 5 deck choices coming out from Chinoize that Hunter, another very fast deck, and as well as the Warrior. So this is why he left the Druid open. He wanted Chinoize to play these late game decks, and he realized that the Warlock was going to be that Reno style. So this is what Powder's game plan was to ban those late game decks and just win the early game, and it might actually work for him. So now he has this mid-range Shaman to come back back out and try to win. The one thing I like about the Shaman is you have a lot of options with it. You have a lot of Jade cards. You have a couple of good Pirate cards as well if you want to run with that. So there's a lot of options from Powder to run this deck, and we see it looks like it's actually a pretty aggro Shaman. It's more aggro than what you usually see. So this is like one of those old school, just throw a card, buff them up, just deal a lot of spell damage, and we'll see how this is going to work for Powder. The Feral Spirit's going to come up on the next turn, is going to be huge, and this is the turn where he's just going to play down the Loot Order, try to get some cycle out as soon as he can, and with that Feral Spirits, he's going to be able to stay alive, and Powder realizing he does not care about trading. He just wants to go face with this Shaman card. He feels like going against the Saplings is not really worth it, and Chinoize being forced here to coin out a Jade is going to he's going to get some ramp finally, and he has the Jade Spirits for turn 4. But look at the cards out of the side for Powder. He's going to be able to put down this Pharaoh Spirits, and that's just going to really help him. He has the Flame Tongue Totem coming up next turn as well, and now he feels like trading is going to be important. He's going to leave the Jade up and actually get the Sapling this time around, but we will see that a 2/2 Jade is going to come out. So this is what Chinoize kind of needed. He did need these Jades to start going very quickly to just have some sort of presence on the board, and now we are going to have to see Powder have some sort of answer to this. So we're going to see where he puts the Flame Tongue, if he's going to put it on the I can't think of the Divine Spirit or the Divine Shield character. I can't think of it. Anyway, he's not going to go trade. He's going to trade the 1/1 out instead and just keep the Feral Spirits buffed instead. And we're going to see this, I believe it was a Wrath, was it? I actually didn't get a chance to see it before he or no, it was a swipe, I believe. Yeah, it was a swipe. So he's going to go ahead and use this swipe on the Pharaoh. He's actually going to be able to completely clear the board, and this is what Chinoize needed. Powder wanted to try to keep the board presence as long as he could, but with the Doomhammer in his hand, with the Black Water Axe, no, that's not it. Can't think of the name of it, but with the buff +3 to his damage, he's going to be able to do 5 now in 1 turn. Plus that more damage in his hand from the Lightning Bolt is just going to have a 13-point swing at some point in the game. So it's not going to be this turn. We'll have to see if he draws the Hex. The top deck of that would be perfect, but he doesn't grab it. We don't even know if he runs it. So we'll have to see of what he decides to do this time around. But it seems like he's going to continue with his aggressive game plan and want to get rid of this Jade Behemoth. And it's going to cost him 6 damage to the face. I feel like it's going to be worth it at this time because all he needs now is a little bit of extra damage. He only needs 4 extra damage. He has 13 in his hand right now, including that Doomhammer. So taking the 6 damage here is not going to be the end of the world. You want to try to end this as soon as possible. And if you could draw the 4 damage, let's just say a Flame Burst or something along those lines to get you the win, or maybe you could try to top roll Spell Power Totem, and then all you need is another Lightning Bolt or something along the likes of that, or even your Earth Shock is, or not Earth Shock, but Earth Shatter, I think is the card, the 2 damage one, is going to be enough. So he's realizing this as well, so he's going to go ahead, deal that damage to that Jade Behemoth, and now Chinoize here going to have to try to find something else to use here. He doesn't have the really taunt cards coming out here, but he's just going to go ahead and play Aya Blackpaw, get some more Jades out there, get the Jades rolling, and this is going to really help Chinoize here if the game goes long. But if Powder finds any sort of damage coming up for this top deck, it's not going to be enough with that Maelstrom Portal. He's going to be able to do some nice board clear with it, but that's really going to be it. So we might see the Ancestral Knowledge come out. He needs some sort of damage. The Flame Burst would be enough for the win. The Lava Shock just going to be short, I believe. Let's see, he has 10, 15. He's going to be short by 2 damage. So he's just going to go ahead and use the Rock Biter now and go face. But now what is he going to do? He still has 7 damage to deal with. He has 5 in his hand, and he does have the Rock Biter as well as, or not the Rock Biter, but the Doomhammer, as well as another Doomhammer in his hand, but he's going to be overloaded for 2, so he can't do that entire combo. So is he going to go ahead, maybe Maelstrom Portal here, and hope for the best that he could survive another turn? Because if he could get a one mana taunt, and that would be enough to keep himself alive, because we do see out of the side, there's 14 damage for Chinoize. He has enough damage in hand, so he needs to do damage to get rid of something on the board here. Now, does he use the Lightning Bolt as well? That is going to be a decision that Powder is going to have to make. But he, in my opinion, does have to Maelstrom Portal here. Get rid of what's on the board. Does he roll high roll a ton? He doesn't. So he's going to go ahead and actually Lightning Bolt the face. Yeah, he is. So he's just going to throw everything there and hope that enough damage isn't going to come out from Chinoize. And he needs 2 damage, I believe, if I remember correctly. Let's see. So he has 12 damage. He has 2 from the Yeah, he doesn't have enough, so he really needs something out from this nourish. He just needs a little bit extra damage. And will he find it? If he finds another living roots, that should be enough. Or anything right now, because he has the innervate and he doesn't get it. So this might actually be game going over to Powder. He might have had the perfect swing here to come back and win. And I'm going to see from Chinoize if he has any option right now. He has 3 mana. The cards aren't in his favor. He only has, at this point, 14 damage, so he is 3 short. And yeah, there's nothing he could do at this point to come back in the game. Even if he coins out the Drake, there's not really anything that he could get out of it. So this is going to be game. Chinoize not able to find a win on this Druid is what's going to cost him. And that's going to be Powder taking this. Just a 3-0 reverse sweep after going down 2-0, and he just showed this was his game plan. He wanted to give that Druid over to Chinoize, and he's realizing right now that he's going to be able to win this game. Congrats to Powder. He's able to win it. He moves on to the finals of this this tournament, I believe. So that is going to be it with that Lava Shock. So we do see Chinoize there was just hoping that Powder didn't have any sorts of damage in his hand, but with that Lava Shock, we knew that that was going to be game. So Powder does take it. Chinoize is going to drop, and just fantastic job there by Powder to not be just discouraged after going down 2-0. Yeah, just excellent work there out of Powder. Just playing the aggressive decks, and it was able to win this. And that was even a more aggressive Shaman that you do see now. Like, because usually you have a lot of Jade cards. You have a couple Pirate cards as well that helps you with more of the mid game. But now he went with that very early, very burst damagey Shaman coming out there. So I'm really liking that coming out of Powder. And it gave him the win. So that is going to do it for me today. A fairly short one, only 30 minutes, and that is mostly just because of how fast-paced that these games were. So only a 30-minute day for me today. So thank you very much for watching me today. I'll be back tomorrow with more Hearthstone, and then Monday as well. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a Strive War tournament, so come by to see me then. And yeah, thank you guys for watching. See you tomorrow.